Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews. I'm your host, Spease, and today we are looking at The Thing That Couldn't Die, released in 1958. The Thing That Couldn't Die stars William Reynolds, Andra Martin, Jeffrey Stone, Carolyn Kearney, Peggy Converse, Robin Hughes, James Anderson, Charles Horvath, and Forrest Lewis. The Thing That Couldn't Die is directed by Will Cowan. Now, Will Cowan, much like John Sherwood on Creature Walks Among Us, there's no pictures of this guy anywhere, so I cannot show you him. Will Cowan was a Scottish producer and director, mostly on short films, so that might be one of the reasons why he doesn't have a picture. He wasn't as well known because of films, mostly. Most prominent thing he did other than this film was producing a couple of the Lon Chaney Jr. Inner Sanctum films for Universal. Now, I mentioned this in my top 10 hypnotic villains. If you haven't seen that video, there's a link up here. Go check that out right now. But the character of Gideon Drew in this story, this evil warlock who centuries ago was decapitated and his body was separated from his head, and his head was buried in an undisclosed location, as was his body. It's a very interesting little story, and it was such an interesting story that it inspired the soap opera Dark Shadows to do their own variation on this story. And it also inspired me to do my own little take on that in an episode of my horror anthology, Evil Deeds. So it is the episode entitled Head of Horrible Hall from Evil Deeds. A little bit of shameless self-promotion, so what? But this film has always been a guilty pleasure of mine. It may not be the best of films, but I think it's competently acted. I think it's a well-written, interesting story. And I think Will Cowan directs, the storyline in a pretty competent and cool way. The acting, like I said, William Reynolds playing Gordon Hawthorne is pretty likable. And this is character, as is Andra Martin as Linda, and Carolyn Kearney as Jessica. And of course, we have our villain, Robin Hughes, as Gideon Drew, and he is now in the flashback scenes when we see how he is decapitated. He, you get to hear him talk, and of course, he talks a little bit near the end when his spoiler alert, his head is reunited with his body. But without even speaking a line of dialogue, Robin Hughes portrays this character in a very kick-ass hypnotic way. He basically enslaves not only Charles Horvath's Mike and makes him kill James Anderson's Boyd, for him. But he also completely entrances Andra Martin's Linda. Meanwhile, Carolyn Kearney's Jessica Burns was protected by a pendant around her neck that the brainwashed Andra Martin, Linda Madison, was trying to get from her this whole time under the control of Gideon Drew. But it's her own boyfriend, Gordon Hawthorne, who stupidly asks her to take off the pendant so that he can research it. And then that leads Andra Martin's Linda Madison to be able to bring out the head, supposedly as a hat she's giving to her, and she ends up under Gideon Drew's control as well, and joins Linda in trying to help Gideon to reattach his head to his body. Now, the music in this is the biggest thing that just makes it seem cheap. And I hate that fact. I mean, I wish they would have just... Universal should have spent a little bit of extra money to get a composer to compose new music for this movie. Instead, it literally uses the music composed by Henry Mancini for The Creature from the Black Lagoon. But other than, hearing those, anyone who is a big fan of the Creature from the Black Lagoon films will instantly recognize that music when it plays. And they use it quite a bit in The Thing That Couldn't Die. But overall, this is a good story. Like I said, if Universal had spent a little bit of extra money and got their own composer, another composer, to do some new music. Hell, if you wanted, Henry Mancini to do music, get him to do some new music for it. Don't just reuse his music for The Creature. So, but other than that, the movie is really an interesting and kind of one of the final of the Universal monster movies of the 50s, unfortunately. But it holds a special place in my heart. And so I will give The Thing That Couldn't Die, 1958. I will give this film a 7.5 out of 10. It is a quite enjoyable film, if not a little bit corny and campy in moments, especially whenever they're just reusing Creature from the Black Lagoon themes in it. It just does not fit. I would love to see Universal. I know they won't do it because this movie's not that big of a thing for them, unfortunately. But I would love to see them go back to this film and release a special Blu-ray version of this film with a new score for it that fits the story. Because that theme song just does not fit the let's look at it. Let's just for fun, let's look at it. Let's look at that same scene with some more fitting music. Yeah. Yeah. Universal, come on. Give us a Blu-ray with some unique music. Please. I don't ask for much. Give me this one thing. Anyway, what did you guys think of this movie? Do you agree with my review of this movie? Do you like The Thing That Couldn't Die? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments down below. And, as usual, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, because it really does help this channel out a lot. But, again, this is not the end of my reviews. It's getting closer to the end with this one, as this is one of the last of the Universal Monster movies that I care to review. I mean, there were some near the end, close to the 60s, that were pretty shabby, and I'm not gonna review those on this channel. There's one called Monster on Campus. Yeah. From '59. It's not going to get a review on this channel. I'm sorry. If you're a fan of that movie, sorry to disappoint. But, yeah. Look forward to seeing the next review. And I hope to see you then. Thanks for watching.